Gentlemen.
Hey guys, welcome back. Nerdy Gentleman here, and wanted to take another bit of a look at some ships that are coming out soon that are in concept and kind of be worked and everything like that. I do appreciate everybody with the phenomenal response to the RSI Arrastra video that I posted out yesterday with just more of the speculation and theory crafting. I think many of us in the community, one of our favorite things to do outside of playing Star Citizen is theory crafting about Star Citizen, so I do appreciate that. I do have with me today one of my best friends and longtime backer of the game as well, Panda. Say hello, Panda.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
So Panda and I have been backers for a long time. Panda, you are 2014, I believe, correct?
Yes, we are coming up on 9 years here, December 14th or 15th. That'll be 9 years.
And I just hit my 10-year anniversary on as a backer for the game in the beginning of this month. So introductions out of the way. One thing that we were talking about yesterday, and one of the interesting things that came up as a kind of a consequence of the video that got put out, there was a lot of comments, and we had a lot of really great comments on the video. But some people were bringing up, the whole thing with the galaxies, the modularity of the galaxies, how that was going to go through and do a comparison between the Galaxy and the Arrastra, because you have the modularity of the Galaxy going through and allowing it to go through and be a refiner or be a cargo hauler, a medical module, and then in the CitizenCon video, they actually showed the Galaxy with a base building module built into it too. So I wanted to kind of touch base on a lot of those things. This isn't going to be an incredibly long video, but we are going to be doing a lot of theory crafting. If you guys are not into theory crafting, if you guys don't want to see anything with possibly leaks, which none of this is leaks, this is all coming off the top of our heads and just the stuff that we've kind of seen in the community, I will try to go through and put different sections and chapters down in the description or in the video below. But I wanted to start off and do the comparison between what we have right now as in the assumption of the size for the Arrastra versus the Galaxy. From my knowledge, from what I was seeing, the Arrastra is an approximation of size. It's about the same size as the Galaxy. And when you're looking at the ship overview altogether, I can see that pretty well in the sense of if we go into a 3D model here of the... Of course you couldn't get the 3D model of it. Really going to be that way? If we scroll down, we can go through and see an approximation of size on the pages here for the layouts of the mainly I'm looking at the cockpit area right here, and they look about similar in this layout for size between those views.
We're squarely in the large ship category with both of these, even if there is some differences in beam and height and length. Both are going to be large multi-role ships.
Yeah, and I would say that one thing that I do like is that we do get more, instead of the flying Dorito effect, which we see on a lot of, like with the Galaxy or on the Polaris, this one is still that rectangular shape. So it has, instead of angling forward, which it still does, but instead of angling forward to the big degree, it still does have that functionality for it to where it's still a bit cubed, if you will, on the Arrastra.
In a lot of ways, I personally thought that the Arrastra actually looked more like a Pioneer than a traditional RSI ship. I thought that was quite an interesting choice.
I can agree with that, because with the Pioneer, and I am honestly a really big fan of the Pioneer too. The Pioneer, though, dwarfs
much larger.
These things.
But in design language, yeah.
Doing the direct comparison, and this was a lot of things that are brought up. I gave an estimate of 500 to 525-ish for price of the Arrastra, and we won't know this until an announcement probably on the 25th, which I think is the RSI days for Star Citizen, for the IAE 2953. So right now it's kind of speculation, but I'm kind of putting the price point for the Arrastra right, I would say 500, and my guesstimation on that is because the Mole is 350, I believe, or 315, and the Orion is 6. I'm going to be a liar now, aren't I? Let's duplicate this one.
It certainly will be less than an Orion, just in functionality and fit and form. It certainly must be less than that.
Well, and it's been the whole purpose of the Arrastra is it's in between the Mole and the Orion. So if you're looking at it just from that point on there, and I think on here it's going to give the price for the initial pledge price because I don't think there's been an update to it, which you can't get it all the time, but 575. So 575 for the Orion, and honestly, at 340 meter length, 100 meter height, 100 meter beam, and 384 SCU of cargo, I think that this price is probably going to go up just like we saw on the a bunch of ships actually just went up in price. So I think that this one is going to be one of the other ones that we're going to be seeing going up in price. But this is, if you look at RSI ships in general, this is so much more industrial. This gives me so much more Drake vibes for the Orion than this.
And I think that's a consequence of, as we get farther in the game, the design Bibles get stronger and stronger, and RSI ships are able to kind of have their own RSI-ness compared to the older Orion, which was designed maybe before that Bible was as locked in as it is today.
I'll agree with that. Definitely agree with that. I does feel like they've been, and that's like with the, what have we got? Is the Perseus, is that an RSI? I can't remember now.
Yes, the Perseus is also an RSI ship, and the Polaris will also be in the same vein.
Perseus, Polaris, Galaxy, and now the Arrastra. So they're really leaning hard into this, because I remember earlier this year they were talking about, like, we're really trying to go through and get the design Bible down, or the design, notification, like everything set up for RSI for these ships, and that's why they're going through, and there's a lot more similarities between obviously the Perseus, the Polaris, I won't say the Orion, but the RSI ships, like with them getting them down, that means this one, even though it will be newly added into the pipeline for like whenever it goes down and comes out, this will have a lot faster completion time, in my opinion, than another brand, another manufacturer out there, just because they're already putting so much work into these type of ships. I mean, this Galaxy, yes, this is in, an artist rendering, whatever, but even this feels really close to a final state in the state that it's in, because we've gotten so many detailed models, so many interior pictures and everything like that of the Galaxy, the modularity and stuff like that, the module systems, that it really makes me think that these are a lot further down the pipeline than they're kind of letting on.
Well, and certainly we'll know that the Galaxy is well into its gray box phase. Again, we've seen it in use in promo and in video and leaked images before that even. So we know it's well along into its gray box phase, if not maybe completing some of the more serious gray box parts. With the counter to that being, we don't exactly know where this Arrastra is. We know that it's got a 3D model. We know that it may have an interior already. A lot of times they don't make the mistake of building one and then the other anymore. They do try and build them more congruently.
Right.
But we don't exactly know where the Arrastra is in development yet.
No, and I know that right now, so the information that we have here on the Sketchfab model, this information, I believe, was data mined out of the PTU, and it's something that was going to be in the HoloViewer. So this is a outside CIG developer, kind of person going through and taking that data and then going through and applying a color scheme to go through and kind of just get an idea for, where they could see lines and stuff like that. So that's where this model is coming from. This isn't like I guess this is technically a game asset, but with exterior artist rendering applied to it to go through and kind of finish it out for coloring. Because the initial one that I saw was just a straight white box.
Yeah, I think this helps us really see kind of some of the pits and valleys of the ship. One of the things I didn't like about the original Greyback's design is I was confused where the cargo was going to hold. But in this picture here, we can clearly see you've got the racks on top as well as the racks under the winglets.
Yeah, the little winglets right here on the side. So,
and we think those are 8 SCU boxes? Is that what we're thinking?
That's my estimate based on the size for the because these are size 4, size 5 guns, but there's 4 of them. Like, these are actually pretty big remote turrets, and just looking at the overall size for the like in comparison to the airlock on the side right here, if you consider that would be an airlock to where a person can go through and walk through, this box right here is over that size. So I would say that is a over the size of a person standing in game, and a person is what, 1.5 meters. So you got to figure that this is probably a 2 meter tall airlock, roughly. No.
Yeah.
Wait, is it 2 meters is 6 foot, or rightish, about 6 foot, isn't it? So this is like what, probably 2.5 meter.
I think 1.8 is the average human. 1.8
Okay,
meters.
so yeah, so I'd put this at probably like a 7 foot or an 8 foot airlock. And the reason why I'm saying this is probably a larger airlock because one, it does look like it's wider, it's larger, but I would see that for like going through and getting.
Do we see any docking collars?
I wanted to say that up. Ooh, I see this right here though, and this makes me think that that might have like a fold out for something else. For a docking collar, I don't see anything directly pointing to a docking collar on this model.
And where is the landing bay in the Arrastra?
In the Arrastra,
Okay.
the landing bay is back here. So it'll be a landing bay with a ramp, so you can go through and drive vehicles up on there. Now, in the Galaxy, which we do have pictures of the Galaxy as well. If we look in the Galaxy through here, which I do actually have a model up of this one as well. This one is, why'd you have to have the lighting to where it's dark back here? This landing bay is actually more of a bay. It doesn't have a ramp drop down, so this is more of space transportation and stuff like that. I won't see this as being vehicles, but more ships landing inside this back bay on here. But if we go up to some of the screenshots that they have for the Galaxy, they do have shots showing some of the different modules inside, and then there's one of the aft deck, but I got it zoomed in so much it's going to be crazy. So this is the hangar bay in the back. So it is going to be for smaller size ships, snub ships, MPUVs, C8X, Pisces, and stuff like that. So I do think that that's going to be a decent size for it.
Can we go back to that Argo Mole photo there?
Maybe.
Right there. One thing I'm noticing immediately is the Carrack has a restriction on ship height, which is part of the large problem. This just certainly does not. Look at how large that bay
I was
is.
looking at that too because there is another picture, and I think it might be this one right here. If you look at that, that is a C8, right? And look how much taller and wider. And granted, this is just an artist rendering, but this is also with a full, at least white box, or not white box, but a gray box phase model that they're basing the scaling off of. Because there's just way too much detail in all of this to go through and really say, that's just fake. Like, these are renders off of what they're using, at least at this point in time, for proportions of the interiors and stuff like that. Because you do have, and that's one thing that we can kind of go into. So switching into kind of looking more at specifically at the Galaxy on here, you do have different modules that are in there, and out of those you will have, and one, come on, look at this design right here. That's nice.
Yeah, the new RSI design is a very professional design.
Oh, and I like this like reverse triangle. I like that. But when you're looking at some of these on here, so this is one of those pictures. This is obviously with the refining module inside of it, because it is going through and taking the modules off of the prospector and lifting them up and being able to go through and refine those modules in there. Very clean. It looks like some of these things I kind of like, are these just greeblies, or is that like, I see that as looking like a docking collar or a satellite. I see that maybe as a radar.
Could be a scanning bay. Here's what I see, though. Look at the turret on the side up over here, and it's got the same circular device. So
that probably is a turret.
A remote turret face. That's what it must be.
I'd agree with that. Here is your refining interior. This will be refinery number 1. Your refining separating ore module, or I'm sorry, this is the refining module number 1 and number 2. And this is, or your processor number 1 or 2, and this is your refining separator out. They actually do have a...
okay, this is much better, yeah.
The top-down view of the refining module in here. And if we go into this spot...
Because it'll be sandbags, or saddlebags in and boxes out. Is that correct?
That's how I'm understanding it, because right now, if you go to a refinery and you go through and refine all of your materials through a station-based refinery, whenever you go through and load that up into a Caterpillar or some sort of ship to go through and transfer all that over to a TDD, it's boxed. So if we look over here at the refinery console, or the refinery module, that is one of the modules inside of the Galaxy, you first start off over here, you have a command console, so you can go through and control how the processes or what processes are running. Right here is processor number 1, process raw ore into saleable material at the push of a button. This is your mineral extractor. So this is, if you kind of look down, would be those two spots where those two sections went in, where the saddlebags kind of went up to. I'm seeing that as like these are the holes in the floor, and this kind of separates it out. And then you have a second processor. So this is two processors on this module. Now, the one point that I wanted to point out is I think that if the refinery module for the Galaxy, which is just an insertable module, so and this is the process in my head, this will not be as powerful as a specific Arrastra mining and refining ship. Like that ship is made to be mining and refining. So it will have fully integrated through the ship mining or refining and mining capabilities. So in my head, even with this being a module with two processors, then the Arrastra has to have either stronger processing, can take on more ore, even if it is two processor units, it can take on more, it can refine faster. Something will have to go through and make it to where that one, there's a reason why people would go with the Arrastra ship over a Galaxy that has refining capability in it. And I know that, yes, the Arrastra also has the ability to mine, but one thing is where I would like to see it at is with the Arrastra being a kind of like a mining hub out there in a situation where you can go through and it can go through and be doing bigger mining of the bigger rocks or breaking stuff down, and also doing a lot of the munching of larger asteroids, which is something we talked about inside there. I am definitely keying that or trademarking that term of ass munching for asteroid munching. So
yes, I certainly would hope that the dedicated ship provides more for us than a modular ship. A modular ship should be used interchangeably, and I love the idea of the Galaxy being a medical ship or a cargo ship or a refining ship, or as we saw at CitizenCon, a base building ship. But
Right.
I would certainly hope that a dedicated ship provides more dedicated performance. That makes sense in my mind.
Well, I definitely see the Galaxy as being like that jack of all trades kind of ship. So like cargo, right? It has the industrial lift and everything on board, which is cool. 512 SE of cargo, and this is for the module because I think the ship itself has its own reserve of cargo that it can hold outside of this module. I think without this, it's like 100. Is it 128?
It does say cargo 64 SCU there under base in concept.
My apologies. I appreciate that. I was skipping right past that. So 64. I think because I was seeing the beam and the cargo, and they were right beside each other. So 64. So if you took that and you said 64 plus the 512, I believe it was. So yeah, that would put it up to what, 576. So that's the same. If you had the cargo module on there and the base amount of cargo that's in there, 576. I believe that's the same amount as the Caterpillar right now, or is that 596? 576. I want to say it's 576.
It's definitely in the ballpark. I can't remember the exact number, but we're looking at a Caterpillar's worth of cargo.
Yeah, and I mean, so it's nice that it can go through and switch between. And this is the modules that is not a part of the hangar area. From what I understand, this connects to the hangar area. The hangar area is right here. This is the aft deck. This is just the module that fits inside the middle of the ship. So you would still have the hangar area back here and be able to go through and transport stuff in or out beyond there. Which, I mean, it's a great design, and it's a great... This video is not to knock either ship, the Arrastra or the Galaxy. I'm going to have both of them because I can see them absolutely filling different roles. My point of it was more making it to where if there is going to have a refinery module that's inside here, one, how much is that going to cost outside, like in real money? How much is that going to cost in the game? What's going to happen whenever you have that module inside your ship and your ship gets destroyed for whatever reason? Like, all of those things are questions that I still have set in place. Is it going to be something to where there's going to be extra time for the modules to come in off the insurance whenever you do a claim?
And we certainly don't know how modules are exactly going to work. I imagine in the beginning it will be as easy as just clipping it in and out of the ship as you desire, but maybe one day it'll be a waiting period or a claim time in between, so you couldn't just on the fly go from a refinery to a med bay to a cargo ship. Right, the size here is quite impressive. I actually would be a tiny bit excited if we could only do these changes at a place like Cousin Crow's. We are still waiting on some more details for both ships and how modularity is going to work. Again, I love the fact that Star Citizen is talking about modularity. If you've been here as long as we have, you know that there's been 5 years at least of silence on modularity, which had a lot of us worried because I backed the Retaliator, you've backed several ships, the Caterpillar and the Carrack, all which have this kind of modularity sort of sense about them. I backed the original Cutlass with the idea that the Cutlass was supposed to be modular, and then they've changed it to having the separate sort of ship hulls. Same with the which one is that? The Warden series. At one point they were supposed to be interchangeable, and then they've just gone to different ship hulls, which was my worry. I was very scared that we were going to see that across the board. But with the sale of the Galaxy, they started talking about modularity again, and that excites me, because if they're talking about it, it's going to be real.
I'd like to say I can understand, and looking back, it definitely was a scary point when they started going through and saying instead of modularity, we're having variance. But at the scales that we were dealing with, like when you're looking at the Warden, like the different series for the Titans, for the Retaliators and stuff like that, the smaller size ships, like if they're medium, small, smaller, like medium, small, snub, I can actually understand variance. But when you're ever going to go through, and if I'd say like at the point where you go to like large and bigger, greater than large size ships, modularity does make more sense. Like, so I would say get between the two, which I guess is it the Redeemer? The Redeemer actually does still make sense for modularity because it is still actually a pretty large ship.
I think you mean the Retaliator.
Sorry,
the Redeemer has no,
There's too many renames, Reclaimer, Redeemer, Retaliator, and I'm just like, okay, yeah. But at a certain point in time, like it does start making sense, right? The Caterpillar, the modularity, like that was the whole selling point from the get-go was, and it out of all the ships, it actually makes the most ship because of how the framing is built to go through and be like, yeah, you can just take out one of those sections and put another one in there. Like, but you know, we won't get off on that rant. But whenever it comes to the large, because these are not considered capital ships. These are still large size ships.
Yes, just large.
But at this scale, like it makes more sense. Like I would hate if they're like, you know what, guys, sorry, the Galaxy, we're going to go through and not have it modular because we decided we could make more money with, you know, having them as variants of each other, because that line is bullshit, right? This ship is $380 for the ship, and I think the modules are like 50 to 100 each. Like they can go through, like if for real money, they can go through and make more money doing it this way, because you're not going to go through and get me, you're going to get me to go through and get the refining one or the cargo one. But also, this isn't even really a great cargo ship for that price, because I would much rather go through and do a hull C.
Right, I think the hull C would be the better choice in that case.
Yeah, so
I don't know if all of those decisions will be money-based, and I certainly hope they're not, because I hate when decisions are money-based. As I said, it's good to hear them talking about it. That's where my excitement comes from, because the years of silence was terrifying, folks. Terrifying.
It was. Whenever it comes between these two right here, again, I do think that the Arrastra, being the specific ship that is not modular but is specified as a mining/refining ship, and we're going to get more information about this on the 25th, 26th, I believe is the days for RSI, and I expect them to go through and, you know, have some good information hopefully coming out about this. And I know somebody else in the chat had mentioned there's supposed to be a direct to flyable for an RSI ship, mining ship, but we were talking about that possibly being Outlands, consolidated Outlands. I'm the more ships that go out, and even if they're for the same roles, and some people can fight me on this one, they can go through and say like it's terrible. We already got a prospector. We don't need another one. I disagree. Like, give me more options any day of the week. If you have 3 ships that all do a similar job but just in slightly different ways, absolutely. And if they have a different style and design choice, because I got to be honest, I'm not the hugest fan of Misk's overall design I always call it like the 50s car look, right? The really, it's that, what do they call it? Retro futuristic?
Streamlined, almost bubble-like.
Yeah. The retro futuristic kind of styling for it. I'm not a big fan of that. Honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of this in general, this kind of design. Like, this is very much future modern, like, or future tech, designs, whatever. I am a Drake fanboy through and through. I love industrial, bare bones, no extra fancies to it, but also I can appreciate the sleek ass lines on this ship. So RSI actually got me there. I'm like, okay.
I do think RSI does hold the line where it's a clean and professional look without going into sort of the, I want to say, gaudiness of the Origin series, or even the uppityness of like the Crusader series. It toes just a professional line, and I think that's perfect.
I'd put them, in my opinion of where they're at, I'd put them about on the same playing field as Argo, where it's futuristic, but it's still industrial enough. But I would put Argo and RSI in about that same line of their design Bible and kind of where they're set at. I think they fit really well, and they're about that middle of the road. I would put Drake as bare bones. We're not even going to put drywall up or steel plate that area. You're just going to see the exposed wires. I would not expect that from RSI or Argo, and I definitely wouldn't expect that from anybody higher. But everything higher, like I'm not a big Origin fan. That's too gaudy for me, I think. There's some really great functionality for that use, and they do look nice, but it's one of those ones where I wouldn't be expecting to do work in there. I would never expect an Origin mining ship. I don't think that would happen for me.
It won't happen. It certainly won't happen.
They're like, we can't do that.
To your point of different manufacturers making different ships, I think the world would be very boring if Toyota was the only one allowed to make a four-door sedan.
No,
Everyone makes a four-door sedan. Everyone has little bits of style differences, and it's going to make the universe feel more alive when you pop in and you don't just see a field of prospectors, but you see that kind of everyone has different ships and different paints, and they're still all doing the same job and they're all in the same area, but that personal preference gives life to the universe.
Yeah, and it might be something to where, there is those different sizes, because not everybody likes to do mining. Not everybody likes to do salvaging, right? I think that having that diversity in the job classifications of the type of vehicles that you go there. Yeah, it was more classifying, like for mining. And I think you're going to start to, and I'm excited because you're going to start to see more diversity in mining, because refining is a part of mining, but it's not necessarily at this point in time been fully laid out. Not street. If you were looking at a Venn diagram, I would say like a refining ship, like the Expanse, which is strictly refining, no mining involved. Right now, we have that towards the mining, in that mining gameplay loop. But with the introduction of extra stuff from Salvaging 2.0, ship munching, that should be coming out in 3.22, there might be something in there that can go through a little refining process. So like having these different ships that are filling, that you'll be able to see out in a asteroid field, that are kind of filling that same role, or not same role, but the same gameplay loop overall, and not doing the exact same job, but doing stuff that goes through and benefits each other. To me, that's exciting. I'm like, hell yes, let's do this. And I would like to go through and see that functionality further expanded upon in the future, and I think that we will. I think right now, with having a lot more of the ship teams coming back over from Squadron 42 and getting back to work in the PU and kind of getting their hands, just I see them in the corner like rubbing their hands, going through and like saying,
yes. An explosion of content, a literal explosion of content coming up with developers moving over. I'm quite excited for Star Citizen over the next 12 months. I think is going to, again, we're longtime believers. We drink the copium, but I really think the next year is going to blow some minds, open some doors.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's going to be a lot of stuff coming out, and even further past that, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of the new systems that are going to be coming in place, and to get them in place, things like the master modes, things like the the control surfaces and stuff like that. Seeing those iterations and those things causing forcing to go through it and have other work being done, like ship reworks and ship gold standards and things like that. So I'm really excited to see what's going on in the future. Any final words from you, Panda?
No, I think we covered a lot of really good stuff here.
So I know this one's kind of scattered all over the place. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and joining us. Until next time, this is the Nerdy Gentleman reminding you to game happy. I love you all, and I will see you all later. Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Gentlemen.